hour of the week or 45 minutes of the week. So sorry I've been missing for a couple of weeks. It was a bit intense, really. I found out last Saturday night that really my best friend growing up had lost his struggle with mental illness. He'd had bipolar for many, many years, and finally it became too much for him, and he chose to end it. So I had to go to England. It was a very intense thing dealing with death, especially of a close friend. And the funeral was very moving. I really got a chance to process my feelings, and then I went and sat in his room in his house for a while, where he did it and where we grew up together doing stuff. And then I spoke at the Shiva. And once again, I found a beautiful thing about Judaism. I find in the world I came from, when someone passes away, there are one of two main reactions. Either people get very depressed for a very long time and they just can't let it go, or people generally kind of deny it, or they just say, yeah, it's okay, it's all for the best, I know they've gone to a better place. But there's really a place in the middle. The place in the middle is the Jewish way, which is to really sit with the feelings and mourn and grieve and feel the pain and feel the loss. And we do that for 7 days. And then to get up and move on. And then we have a 30-day period of mourning, and then a year long of saying, I'm saying Kaddish for him. There's no one else to say Kaddish for him. So it's a very emotionally intelligent way to deal with pain in our life. Because we're always going to have painful situations in our life. Things are going to happen, people are going to die, we're not going to get the jobs we want, people are going to get sick. So how we deal with our pain is very important. So one way is to become a complete victim and just keep going over, it's not fair, why, if only this, what if I had done this, if this could have been different. That's one way. And another way is to be like, okay, I'm fine with this, but the honest way is to sit and feel your pain honestly. Now, I think we mentioned last time that there's a difference between feelings and thoughts. Feelings are called feelings because you are meant to feel them. So, for example, if you feel sad, if you're sitting there and saying, I shouldn't feel sad, or how can I stop feeling sad, or I don't want to feel sad, or other people don't feel sad, or sometimes, then it means you're not just feeling your sad feeling, and in fact, you're creating more sadness for yourself. Those things that you resist and run away from, they persist. The things that you resist, they persist. So the feelings need to be felt. So if you feel sad, just feel sad. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad. And if you say to yourself, I shouldn't feel sad, now not only do you feel sad, but you've made yourself wrong for feeling sad, so now you feel bad and sad, which is a nightmare. So feelings we very much need to feel. However, once we've felt the feelings and used up the energy of the feelings, you need to learn to not keep replaying the situation, to go over it again and again and again, because that just stirs up the feeling again. So the difference really that we need to understand, the difference between pain and suffering, is pain is a difficult situation that happens. You bang your knee, someone dies, split up with a girlfriend, boyfriend. And suffering is our mind not dealing with the pain in a positive or healthy way. So let's say, for example, you feel lonely. So you could sit there and say to yourself, I wish I wasn't lonely. If I had a boyfriend, I wouldn't be lonely. Other people aren't lonely. How can I stop being lonely? I don't like being lonely. I don't want to be lonely. So those thoughts is what cause our suffering. Just the loneliness in itself doesn't cause suffering. Loneliness is a feeling, and if we could just sit there for a while and say, I feel lonely, and that's okay. I'm okay with how I feel. I used to think that to be a real master meant that you never feel low or you never feel sad. But that's not a real master. A real master is someone who feels their emotions fully and authentically and then moves on. They feel their emotions, but they don't let their emotions bring them down. They don't let it stretch out into a bad mood or being miserable or affect them long term. So that's what we're really trying to do. Feelings need to be felt, but thoughts, we've got to learn not to perpetuate them. So really, this is one of the main teachings of Judaism. We touched on it last week. I want to go into it a bit more today, which is Ezehu Gibor. This is in Pirkei Avot. Ezehu Gibor. Who is the strong person? Who is the master? HaKovesh et Yitzro. The person who manages to conquer and calm and control and ultimately use their mind, their negative mind patterns. So really, the importance of this cannot be understressed, because our whole experience of life actually comes through our mind. What your life is from now until the day you die is just really in your mind and therefore in your heart, because your thoughts create your emotions. If you feel happy, if you think happy thoughts, you'll feel happy. If you hear sad news, then you'll feel sad. So once we can learn to control our mind, then we can control our emotions. Now, sometimes, this is one of the things I love about Judaism, the right choice is to feel sad. I found maybe in the Eastern religions that I studied, Buddhism was very kind of detached from emotions and what it termed negative emotions. You should never feel sad. Don't get attached. Don't get attached to your friend, because when they die, you'll feel sad. So don't have friends. Sit in the cave and learn to not be attached. That's not the Jewish way. The Jewish way is be really attached and have a deep, intense relationship. Then learn how to deal with it when the pain arises. So that's what we're really trying to do. So from the second you wake up in the morning to the second you fall asleep at night, you have a commentary going on in your head. I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, I'm bad, I'm good. Judging, doubting, fearing, worrying, planning, all these things going in your head the whole time, and that's creating your emotions. Sometimes you can wake up in the morning and walk down the street and you miss your bus and it doesn't bother you, and then someone insults you and you just, you don't care so much. And the next day you can be walking down the street and you miss your bus and it really annoys you, and someone insults you and you get so upset. So really what's changed is not the external world, not the circumstances, but how we're relating to them in our mind. And that depends on many things. For example, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about the situation, what mood we're in, what we ate that morning, if we had enough sleep. So Judaism teaches that life isn't just about what food you're allowed to put in your mouth. It's about what thoughts you're allowed to have in your head. So we're definitely not allowed to have negative and judgmental thoughts and thoughts about doing things that we're not allowed to do. But also any thoughts, critical, self-criticizing thoughts, they also don't help. So we're really not allowed to let the Yetzer Hara put ourselves down. Lots of us have a critical voice in our head, often putting us down. Sometimes, let's say you make a mistake. So most people, when they make a mistake, they think to themselves, what's wrong with me? What an idiot. What do people think of me? What do I think of myself? I'll never have friends again. So they just beat themselves up, and beating yourself up is not a very, very positive thing. It's not going to get you anywhere, really. You should certainly feel some remorse and say, okay, so I've let myself down. I feel it. I regret what I did, but now I'm going to move on. So negative thoughts about yourself and about other people and about life aren't helpful to us. Now, this is very much kind of easier said than done. Most people who are very mentally healthy and where the painful situations aren't that bad, they still can't deal with that. So most people, when they're sitting in a traffic jam on the way to work and they're not moving anywhere and they've got a meeting, they start freaking out. And really freaking out is not going to move the cars. You're not going to get to your meeting any quicker. So we find it's hard enough to deal with life, but if there's been any abuse or trauma or difficult things in our lives, or if people have mental imbalances, it's very hard to implement these tools. So what I'm going to try to do today is really break it down and see what we can do. What we can do with our minds, so that we become a master of the mind, we can become a Gibor. So this is how it works. Really in life, what happens is there's a stimulus, an external stimulus. Something comes from the external world. You miss the bus, or someone compliments you, or you fall over, or you meet a nice girl, or things happen to you. What that then happens is that creates a thought in your head. So if you miss your bus and you're late for work, you're going to have thoughts, I can't believe I missed the bus. You know, it will be terrible that I missed the meeting, and maybe I'll lose my job. And you'll have all these thoughts, and that's going to create a feeling. And the feeling will usually be a negative feeling. We've had negative thoughts. And then what our mind tends to do is play those thoughts again and again and again and again. So I'm sure most normal people, maybe you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend when you were younger, and you split up, and you had thoughts, if only I had said this, and if only she'd been more like this, and if only I'd said this, and she's probably sleeping with him now, and we have all these thoughts. What happens is when we come to the end of that train of thoughts, the mind just goes back to the beginning and does it again. If only she and I could have done this, and we would have been this, and this would have been different, and if all things would be different. And we go on and we play these things over and over and over again. It could be for weeks, months, years. We keep playing those thoughts over and over again. And really that's kind of a form of insanity, because if we know that those thoughts are leading us to somewhere we don't want to go, why would we do that again? Why would we keep getting on that train of thought? So if I'm standing at the bus stop in Jerusalem, and I want to go to Sfat in the north, and a bus comes and it says Elat on it, so it's going to the south, would I get on that bus? Really the answer is no, I wouldn't. Because it's going in the wrong direction. And yet, so often in our lives, we get on the wrong thought. We get on the wrong bus. So I'm just going to share. I made a little PowerPoint so we can visualize this better. Here we go. Quickly, this is how to be a black belt in life. So your mind, as we said, is your whole experience of life, good or bad, is based on your mind. So your thoughts create your emotions. So fine, this is the usual process we're talking about. There's an external stimulus. That leads to thoughts and emotions. External stimulus leads to thoughts and emotions. What we often do is this. This is what the conscious process needs to be. The external stimulus happens, leads to thoughts and emotions. So someone insults us, we feel bad. And then what happens? We have a choice. We have a choice what to do now with the thoughts and the feelings. So the first thing we can do, really, we can continue having the thoughts and replaying the situation. So what does that mean? Let's say someone made me angry. They did something and I felt insulted and upset and they made me angry. So I can think about that, and 2 days later, I can keep replaying the situation. I cannot believe he said that to me. And why would he say that? And it's not fair that he said that. So really, the situation is not that the other person is making you angry anymore. They're finished. They're not even there anymore. They've gone home. They live miles away. What's now making you angry and creating the feelings of anger within you is your own thoughts and memories about what happened. So that's what we often do. We continue having the thoughts, replaying the situation, and that's not going to get us anywhere. Once again, if you split up with someone and you look at the photos of yourselves on holiday and you listen to the same music you used to listen to, you're just replaying and replaying and replaying, and that's causing you upsetness. Of course you should do that for a little bit, for a day maybe, because we do need to feel the pain and grieve and feel the loss. If you do split up with someone, just to say, no, I know it's all for the best, it's not being honest, so you've got to be honest with yourself. But let's stop getting on the wrong bus. By going over the same thoughts again and again and again, it means you're getting on the bus to Elat when you really wanted to get onto the bus to Sfat. So what we have to really do is start becoming very aware of what those thoughts are. What are those thoughts that often come to our mind? Or negative thoughts about ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. So whatever those thoughts are, We just got to become very aware of them and identify them. So what you should really do is write them down. Just write down a whole list of all thoughts that come to your life. Thinking about that guy all the time, or thinking about how you didn't get the job, or thinking about all these things. Write them down so you start becoming aware and identifying what are my negative thoughts that I keep having. The second thing that people often do is beat themselves up. They beat themselves up for having these thoughts. What's wrong with me? So I always like to give an example. One of my negative things is I often feel a bit jealous of other people. So, for example, when I watch other rabbis giving a talk, I notice that my mind will say things like, I'm much funnier than him. Or I wish I was speaking. I've got much better things to say. Or all things like that. So what I could do, I could continue having those thoughts and say, yeah, I hope he messes up his talk, which is very negative because I'm just going to make that character trait, jealousy, become stronger. I could beat myself up for it. I could say, no, what's wrong with me? How could I have jealous thoughts? I'm an idiot. I should be better than that. I should be working on myself. That also doesn't help. It doesn't help because when we feel bad about ourselves and we put ourselves down, we can't grow. You can only grow from a place of inner peace and inner joy. So the Yetzer Hara, the negative thought patterns that we have, always wants us to feel down. Wants us to put us down and not feel good about ourselves. It's like a bully. So it's going to bully you and make you feel bad about yourself and what you do so that you can't get out of it. And this is what we should really be doing. When a thought comes, we need to acknowledge it. You say, okay, so that was a jealous thought. I acknowledge there was a thought. I acknowledge. I labeled it. It was a jealous thought. It's okay. It was an angry thought. I had this thought. Okay, and be okay with it. It's okay that I had a jealous thought. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It's just I had a jealous thought. And then start to learn to replace your jealous thoughts. So for me, whenever I have a jealous thought, I always say 2 prayers for the person speaking. I always say, I hope their speech goes so well and they become a famous speaker. Something like that. And after a while, your Yetzer Hara, your negative mind pattern stops throwing those negative thoughts at you because you're just using it for something positive. You're using it to pray for someone else. So if you often have the thought, I'm not good enough, you can A, continue having that thought. Yeah, I really am not good enough. What's wrong with me? I'll never get married. I'm so bad and not good. You can beat yourself up for having the thought. Why do I keep having these negative thoughts about myself? I wish I could stop having these negative thoughts about myself. Also doesn't help. Or you can say, okay, there's that thought. I'm not good enough. And then replace it, label it. Say, okay, that's the thought. Label it and then replace it with, you know what, I am good enough. Everyone's good enough. I'm great. I'm actually great. And you might not believe that at first because your mind's been telling you for the last 25 years that you aren't good enough. But what you're trying to do is rewire your brain. You're rewiring yourself to say, no, I actually am great. Because what you think, that's what you start to believe and that's what you become. At Tzemach Tzedek, one of the Lubavitcher Rebbe's, he said, if you think good, it will be good. If you think good, it will be good. And the Baal Shem Tov said, you are where your thoughts are. So you become what your thoughts are. So if your thoughts have always been negative, that's how you're going to see yourself. That's what you're going to become. So this is what we're trying to do. When the thought arises in your mind, rather than letting it get you down, I do this trick. I actually smile at it. I smile at the thought. I say, oh, there you are again. I'm not going to let you get me. I'm not going to let you get me down this time. Because if there's a bully, if anyone's been bullied at school, and you just stand up to the bully and smile and show that they can't have power over you, then the bully loses power. So as soon as you say to your Yetzer Hara and these negative thoughts, you're not going to let him get you down, then you've taken away the power, and then you can start replacing it. So the Chavetz Chaim once, someone was walking past his room early in the morning and they heard him shouting, you're older than me and you're awake already. After davening, after the morning service, someone said to him, what happened? Who was in your room? And he said, well, I woke up and it was quite cold. And the Yetzer Hara said to me, come on, you're quite old. You should just stay in bed for a bit longer. So I had to shout at the Yetzer Hara and say, no, you're older than me, and you're already awake, so I can already be awake. It's very important for us to learn to talk to the Yetzer Hara and say, you can't get me. Often we need to talk to our minds like it's a baby. Sometimes you just need to say, shh. It's okay. I can hear you, and I'll talk to you later. You've got to be very aware. Don't identify with the thoughts and really talk to them. And don't, often on Friday afternoon, just before Shabbat, it's a very dangerous time for the Yetzer Hara, because everyone's a bit stressed and you've got to get them food ready, and Shabbat's coming and the guests coming and the kids are running around and you haven't had a shower and you've got to wash the floor and everything. It's a very easy time for the Yetzer Hara to sneak in. So in my house, we often have like a joke. We say, oh, where's the Yetzer Hara? Is he coming? Let's see, let's make some food for the Yetzer Hara. And once we start talking about it, we diffuse the power of the Yetzer Hara. So that's what we're trying to do. So, when a thought comes to your mind, the first thing we need to do is become very aware. Okay, I'm having that thought again. The next thing we need to do is not beat ourselves up. Say, okay, that's fine. It's okay that I had a jealous thought. It's okay that I'm thinking about her again. And we should smile, and then we should replace it with, I'm sure I'll find someone else. Or I'll get another job, it's okay. Or there's many other things, but choose to replace our thoughts with positive thoughts. All right. So, here we go. Obviously, there's an even higher process, which we want to get to one day, which is the external stimulus comes, and before it creates thoughts and feelings, if someone insults us, what we just spoke about is someone insults us, it makes us feel bad. How do you deal with that feeling? The higher level is someone insults us, we choose already, and that will create our thoughts and emotions. There's a very high level to not let the external world affect you at all. In Buddhism, it's called upekkha, it's called equanimity, and in Judaism, it's called hishtavut. Hishtavut means not letting insult put you down, and not letting praise make you feel arrogant. You can feel bad about yourself if someone says bad things, and you feel great about yourself if someone praises you. Hishtavut is, I'm not going to let the external world dictate how I feel about myself. And a very famous teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, the line that says, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, from Tehillim. Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, which literally means I place Hashem before me at all times. But the Baal Shem Tov said, Shiviti comes from the word Shaveh, Hishtavut. So it means Shiviti, I have equanimity. I'm not letting the external world make me feel bad. Why? Hashem lenegdi tamid. Because Hashem's always in front of me. Everything that happens to me is directly from Hashem. So really, Jewish enlightenment is emunah. Emunah is knowing that everything that happens to me, when I miss the bus, when the grape juice falls out of the fridge onto my foot, when I spill wine on the white Shabbos table, everything that happens to me is perfectly planned and put in my life by a loving Father who just wants the best for me. So the Gemara in Brachas teaches us that Gam Zu Latova, everything that happens really happens for the best, even if it really doesn't feel like it. So really, for us, the key to stop our suffering, our pain turning into suffering, the highest level is to have emunah, to really know that whatever the reason for this, I know there has to be a good reason. So for example, when I take my daughter to have an injection, it's very painful injections, and she doesn't really understand why she had to go through that. Because if she did understand, it wouldn't turn into suffering. This is a very major point. That to stop your pain becoming suffering, find the meaning in the pain. Once the pain has meaning, you're not a victim to the pain. So giving birth is very painful, but it's not suffering because there's meaning behind it. Going to the gym can be painful, but it's not suffering because there's meaning. So find the meaning in your pain. But going to have an injection when you're a 2-year-old is painful and doesn't have meaning. You can't explain to a 2-year-old why they have to go through this. So the higher level is then to have emunah. And my 2-year-old knows that there's no way I would let them go through that pain if it didn't have meaning, even though they don't know what the meaning is. And that's called emunah. I trust that Hashem would never do anything to me unless it had a good reason, even if I can't work out what the reason is now. And that's really how to become a master of your mind. So I'm just going to summarize, give you a few tools. Got a few minutes left. Number 1, don't identify with your mind or your negative character traits. Don't identify with your mind or your negative character traits. So if you have jealous thoughts, that doesn't mean you're a jealous person. It just means you had some jealous thoughts. Our sages teach us that what you really are is a soul, a pure, beautiful soul. And so if you have jealous thoughts, that's not who you are. If you have negative character traits, that's not who you are. Don't not like yourself because you have negative character traits. If you have impatience or anger or stress, okay, so work on those things. Those are what you need to work on. We spoke about this last time. As soon as you stop identifying with your mind, it's much easier to control it. As soon as you start observing the mind. So when the jealous thought comes or when the negative thought comes, if you can just be the consciousness behind that and observe it and say, okay, there's a jealous thought. You've now detached yourself from the jealous thought. Your consciousness isn't involved in the jealous thought. You're not defining yourself by that. And now you can choose, you can consciously choose, what am I going to do with this thought? Am I going to perpetuate it? Am I going to beat myself up? Or am I going to acknowledge it, label it, smile, move on? So that's what we have to do. Second, identify and replace negative thought patterns. That's what we spoke about a bit earlier. Identify those thoughts. In fact, I think you should do that now. Or after the class. Take 5 minutes and write down some obsessive thoughts that you often have and negative thoughts you often have about yourself, about the world, about life. And write them down. And you'll see your list. Usually on a list, most of the things you write down aren't true. So for example, any negative thing you say about yourself is not true, because no one is an impatient or angry or horrible person. Everyone's a beautiful, sweet, pure soul who has these character traits that they need to work on. The other category they may fall into is they serve no useful purpose. Regret, beating yourself up, if only, what if. Might be true, but they're not helping you. Those thoughts aren't helping you. So all we have to start doing is start identifying when those thoughts come and then replace them with positive thoughts. Next one we spoke about, difference between pain and suffering. Pain is a feeling, and suffering is your mind not dealing with the feeling in a positive way. So once you can find meaning in your pain, it doesn't become suffering, and if you can't find the meaning, that's when we have emunah. Emunah helps us in those situations when there's a sick child, or when you want to go and do a mitzvah, but you can't find your bike key. All these things that just don't make any sense. That's when emunah really kicks in. Next one, see every challenge as an opportunity to grow. Unfortunately, growth in life comes through pain. If you go to the gym and you lift up a pencil, you're not growing. So your growth is going to come from overcoming challenges. So really the meaning in most of our pain is some sort of personal growth. And achievement means overcoming some difficulty, some challenge. And then you've really achieved something. So in life, we shouldn't necessarily take on challenges, although I think we should to some extent. But just understand when a challenge comes, when you miss the bus, when things seem to be going wrong, get your perspective right and say, okay, so this is an opportunity for me to do something, to grow. What am I meant to get out of it? Freaking out in the car because I'm in a traffic jam, not going to make the car move. So what should I do instead? How am I going to work on my patience? That's an amazing idea. Next one. Number 5 is called cosmic time. Let me think of a story. So when I was young, I was captain of the football team at school. That was quite cool. And one day I walked out of the classroom and everyone started laughing at me. And I noticed that my t-shirt had got stuck in my bum. Actually, it was embarrassing, and everyone started laughing. So I walked out of the classroom, and I really thought, oh no, I'm so embarrassed. I'll never be able to go back to school. You know, everyone's going to be talking about this. So it was really called catastrophizing. Often in our minds, we make things the worst they can be. And we're still doing that nowadays. I spoke to someone the other day, and there had been a picture of her on Facebook, but she didn't look very nice in the picture. She had spots or whatever. And she was mortified. She couldn't believe it. She's like, oh no, and everyone saw that, and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I'll never get married, I'll never... Catastrophizing. She made it the worst thing ever. And this is where cosmic time comes in. Cosmic time is the idea that you ask yourself, how am I going to feel about this in a day from now, in a week from now, in a year from now, in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now? Believe me, there's nothing you're going to experience ever that 10 years from now, if you have a positive attitude, you're not going to be okay with it. There's nothing you're going to experience. I guess it's time heals all wounds, but especially if you're being conscious, it will take less and less time to heal your wounds. So if you understand in the moment of pain that this pain will pass and you will deal with it, it makes the pain a little bit less. Doesn't take it away completely, but to know that you're going to handle it and overcome it. When you split up with someone, when you're 20 years old and you split up with that girl that you thought you were going to marry, really 10 years later, when you are married to a different, much better girl and you've got 3 children, you're just going to look back and say, oh, that was like a teenage love relationship, but nothing compared to what I have now. So understand, everything difficult in our life is going to pass. Next one we spoke about, feel your emotions, don't think about them. Take responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings. One of my rabbis has told a story that, and some people feel very uncomfortable with this story, but I heard the lesson behind it. Someone came to him and he was feeling a bit down and he wasn't progressing so much in his life. So my rabbi said to him, what's going on? And the boy shared that he had a very abusive father. He had a very difficult relationship with his father. He was very abusive. And he was struggling with that. So my rabbi spoke him through it and supported him for a long time, and they were going through it. And then about 6 months later, he noticed that the boy still wasn't really growing. And he said to him, what's going on with you? And the boy said to him, well, I had an abusive relationship with my father. So my rabbi said to him, but that's what you said 6 months ago. It's very harsh, in a way. I hear that's very harsh. But what he was saying to him was, don't use that as an excuse for the rest of your life to not achieve anything. If you get to 90 years old and you haven't achieved anything and you're always going to be blaming your abusive father, it means you've taken away responsibility for your own power. You've given your power of your life over to other people. There are many people who have abusive fathers and therefore become the best fathers in the world because of it, or set up organizations to support people who have been bullied, or we can use our adversity and difficult things to become great. So don't say, I would be happy if my boss did this, or if this was different, or if this, because it means you're giving over the power of how you feel to other people. So take responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings. Once again, this is terribly, terribly difficult, and we can never judge anyone who does feel down, especially after lots of abuse. So don't just say to people, well, you should have a better perspective. Because even at the best of times, most of us can't get that good perspective. However, all healing eventually will become when people do start getting a better perspective. That might take therapy, medication, energy healing. It could take many things, but that's where it's going to come from. The last one I'm going to talk about tonight a little bit is physiology. How are you holding yourself? How are you sitting? Are you sitting up straight? Are you breathing deeply? Are you looking into the distance? We're so near focused nowadays, books and screens and phone screens, and when you're walking through Manhattan, you can't see very far. You get hit with a building or a person or a car. So it's not very expansive. Whenever I'm in Manhattan, I always look up to the sky and I feel better. So watch how your body is. Watch how you're breathing. Are you crouched over? They did a research that people who were suffering from depression, when they sat up straight and they smiled and they breathed deeply, They didn't feel depressed. Obviously, this isn't a cure for depression because the thoughts overcome you again. But it just shows that how you hold yourself and your body and your posture and your breathing is so important for how it affects your mind. You get in telesales and marketing and stuff, they've got the power pose. You won't see them, but anyone who calls you on the phone, if they've been posed properly, will stand there with their arms raised for a few minutes. After they've done this for a few minutes, then they make the call because it's an empowering pose. It makes you feel good about yourself. So just please be very aware of your body and your breathing. And that's going to have a significant effect on your thoughts. The other time the body is very useful is at night when you can't fall asleep because your mind is racing. Everyone's had it. You really want to try to fall asleep, but your mind's just going by and you're thinking, and you can't fall asleep. What you need to do is start focusing your mind on your body then. Just feel the energy in your hands. Just take a few deep breaths and feel the energy in your hands. And just focus on your body or work up your body from your feet. Feel the energy in your feet. Feel your feet being heavy or being warm. And then move up your legs and your body. And if you bring all of your attention and your awareness to your body, it slows the mind down because it gives the mind something to hold on to. Okay, I'm going to stop now. There were so many things in that one class, but I hope I've sowed some seeds. The real seed I want to sow in your mind is that this is an amazing and empowering thing that your whole experience of life comes through your mind, because it means you're in control. Once you're in control, you really do have control of your whole life. It doesn't depend on what other people say about you or what the weather's like. You are now going to have the power, hopefully, to start being conscious enough to choose and create your own thoughts and your own experience of life. Once again, it's not easy, but it's really worth doing. Ezehu Gibor, who is the strong person? The Kovesh Ed Yitzra, the person who learns to focus and control and use their minds in a healthy way. I give us all a blessing that we can start working towards that and live happy, conscious, beautiful, sweet, meaningful lives. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much. Deep things to think about for at least the next week or many, many weeks. Thank you so much, Dr. Colin, and I'm sure also the participants have taken, along with them, the ones who are watching now and the ones who are going to be watching the recording, taking along a lot of beautiful and meaningful thoughts. We wish everyone to continue a healthy and good week, and we're looking forward to meet you next week. Be well and take care. Bye.